If we don't make
We're all
it, you
set?
guys own
Okay,
it.
good to go. Good evening. Welcome to Alpena City Council meeting, April 4th, 2016. Call the order, please.
Johnson? Here. Nielsen?
Here.
Noah?
Here.
Sexton?
Here.
Walagora?
Here. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge
Pledge
allegiance.
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any modifications to the agenda this evening? Let's see, approval of the minutes, regular session, March 21st, 2016, and special session of March 29th, 2016. Issues, changes? Okay, citizens appearing before council on agenda and non-agenda items are allowed 5 minutes each to address your concerns. If you do so, please come to the podium and state your name and address for our records. This is the only time during our meeting that citizens are allowed to address council. Just whoever's first. Thank you.
My name is Joanne Cromley, and I'm from Sheboygan County, and I'm here tonight about Line 5. I'm passing around the latest map that the University of Michigan did on, they put it out on March 31st, and it's the worst case oil spill that would happen in the Straits and how far that oil spill would travel. So communities throughout Michigan are working to restrict Enbridge's Line 5 to non-oil cargo now. To date, 34 resolutions have adopted resolutions asking the governor and attorney general to implement their statutory responsibility under the 1953 easement. This effort is nonpartisan, reflecting the public's broad demand for action now. Last week, the University of Michigan's Water Center released a new computer modeling study of a pipeline burst in the Straits. Up to 152 miles of shoreline could be affected by a single spill in Lake Huron and Michigan. In some instances, 720 miles of shoreline could be affected. 2, a spill will affect shoreline and open water areas in both Lake Michigan and Lake Huron. And 3, a spill in the Straits, given the right conditions, could spread oil down Lake Huron to Michigan's thumb area. Our lives as we know it would be over. A spill would devastate the shipping industry, fishing industry, and tourism industry, which Michigan relies heavily on. How would a spill affect the shipping industry in Rogers City, the nautical city of the north? And how would an oil spill affect the Thunder Bay Marine Sanctuary in the city of Alpena? NOAA states that responders can potentially clean up what is on top of the water, but at best only 30% can be recovered. 70% of the oil will remain in Lake Michigan and Huron forever. The U.S. Coast Guard has stated the Straits are the worst possible place for a Great Lakes oil spill. The Coast Guard has repeatedly raised alarms about its ability to effectively respond to a spill. Will we not listen to the scientists when they tell us that we cannot afford a spill in the Straits or anywhere along the 645 miles of Line 5? The public is demanding that the local and state governments work to keep their citizens and their environment safe from a catastrophic oil spill. Please add your city's name to the growing list of municipalities calling on the state to act now. The nation has already seen the consequences of inaction by the current Michigan administration over the poisoning of children in Flint through ineffectual oversight or worse, indifference. We now demand that the governor and attorney general don't Flint the Straits. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening. My name is Leonard Cage. I'm also with the Straits Area Concerned Citizens. And I just want to emphasize that this is not a shutdown Line 5 resolution. It simply asks the governor to restrict the product to non-oils and restrict the volume until data is provided that an independent panel would certify that Line 5 is safe. I would like to think that all of us can agree that that's the issue. If line 5 is safe, then we're okay. Our problem is, and I want to cite to you from the Michigan Petroleum Pipeline Task Force report of July 15th, put out by the Attorney General and the DEQ. Even though Enbridge keeps telling everyone that the pipeline is safe, they're inspecting it, they're monitoring it, if you read the Attorney General's Task Force report, and I'm just going to read you one sentence from page 44 of that Task Force report last July. By not providing the state with actual copies of test results and other state requested documents, based upon assertions of confidentiality, Enbridge has limited opportunities for independent expert review. Now, my point is, they are telling the world the line is safe, but they are not providing the state with the inspection data. And the state, the Attorney General, just on March 11th of this month, renewed the request for the raw data on their engineering protocols, on the corrosion issues on the line, and the initial PR response of Enbridge is the raw data is too complex and it might be taken out of context. Well, I don't know about you, but that's a pretty big red flag to me. It's almost an insult to the state of Michigan. The effort here is to force Enbridge to turn over the inspection data, to get some experts to tell us whether that line is safe. That's all. Once we know the line is safe, they can go back to pumping. Right now, we're getting 23 million gallons of oil a day passing through the Straits of Michigan in a 63-year-old pipeline. That's a serious matter for everyone. I think the whole image of pure Michigan would just go right down the tube if we had a spill of any significant size. And I thank you for giving us the opportunity to discuss this.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Robert Kennedy, and I'm actually back here to reintroduce myself. I was here a couple of years ago before City Council to reintroduce myself as a candidate for the Michigan House of Representatives here in our 106 district. I'm running in the Democratic Party, and I will be on the ballot on the August 2nd primary. Basically, I've been a lifelong resident here in the 106. I've lived here my whole life. My family dates back to 5 generations in the 106 district. Grew up in Oscoda, Michigan, in Iosco County. Had a 38-year teaching career there. And then my wife Marty and I retired up in Alpena County 6 years ago. Some of the issues that I'm addressing on the campaign, number one is campaign finance reform. Let's get the money out of politics. The recent Supreme Court ruling, Citizens United, that basically said that money is a form of speech. It has really unleveled the playing field for our constituents here. And so would fight hard in Lansing to lower the spending limits and get the dark money out of our campaign system. Also, we'll work hard to restore transparency and ethics to our state government. Some of you may be familiar with the study that just came out here about 4 or 5 months ago from the Center for Public Integrity, and it ranked Michigan dead last in the areas that are very important to our voters. Campaign finance disclosure laws, ethics, transparency, and freedom of information. You might be aware that only 2 states in the union don't require their governor, their state reps, and their state senators to be under the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act provisions. Well, Michigan is one of them. And I would fight hard to repeal that and make it so the citizens can find out what's going on. I'm a strong advocate. I was a school teacher for 38 years, strong advocate for proper funding for our public schools, as well as our local units of government. I think you guys, as our cities, our counties, our townships have been underfunded, revenue sharing, cuts year after year after year, and you're the foundation of our representative democracy, and so strongly support proper funding for local units of government. Our state mental health funding has also been laxed, and I would want to beef that up. I think you talk to prosecutors, too many times patients are ending up in prison and they need treatment. So we need to properly fund our community mental health departments. But most importantly tonight, I'm an advocate for protecting and preserving our natural resources, especially our Great Lakes, which are the basis for our pure Michigan economy in terms of recreation, fishing, boating, commerce, and real estate, all while providing clean drinking water to millions of Michigan residents. And in this vein, I support the resolution on Pipeline 5 that will be presented to you tonight, and I strongly encourage you to support it also. Thank you very much.
Robert.
Paul Walney, Reader School Road, Wellington Township. This might have something to do with line 5, but I'm going to talk about the recycling authority that we just started. Scott McComb has a company, him and his wife Cindy have a company called Renewal Design. He got hooked up with the recycling authority in Las Vegas, started the business, built a 30,000 square foot building out of beer bottles. There's plenty of beer bottles and glass there, but if you're well aware of plastic, it is nothing but oil. That's a byproduct of a barrel of oil. We should be thinking the future industry should be drones is one, recycling is another. That should be a plan. I've talked briefly with the trustees at the college, Jim Claridge. He's contacted the brother of the company, and hopefully we can get President McMaster to fly out there and check out, see how he's done. He made his own, designed his own machine that he could stick his hand in it. He was on public television. He was on an educational program on Saturdays for the kids. It's amazing what he's made with ground glass, fly ash, and cement. And that's right in the ballpark here. Building materials of all kinds besides size of building. Some of the building that if you go in and look up beer bottle building in Las Vegas, you'll see the new hotel is exactly the framework that he started with. You won't believe the design of that building after he started. And then also I would like to talk about the article I've seen in the paper the other day that it's going to cost $90,000 to do a reappraisal of all the parcels, of residential parcels. 101, basic, volume 1 of training for an assessor. He learns the property tax laws, and it's recommended, now strongly recommended by the State Tax Commission, that 20% of all parcels every year, so that means 5 years, everybody's been reappraised. That's what assessor's job is, stated by the State Tax Commission. I don't understand why it hasn't been done since 1960, but I'm quite sure there's MCL laws and property tax laws have been violated. Why the man still has a certification to be assessor, I don't understand. This should have been taken care of a long time ago, and that's part of his job. I can't believe that it hasn't been done. It doesn't make any sense, and it hurts everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Okay, thank you all. Tonight's consent agenda, bills to be allowed in the amount of $206,486.59. B is a receive and file 2015 City Treasurer's Tax Roll Collection Report. C is a renewal of auditing services, Straley Lamp and Kraenzlein PC, July 1, 2016 to June 30th, 2017. D is the approval of the Relay for Life's request for noise variance for the 24-hour event beginning on August 20th, 2016 at 10 a.m. and ending August 21st, 2016 at 10 a.m. And E is the budget amendment for Marina utilities for $10,000 from the fund balance.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Noak?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye.
Johnson?
Okay, no presentations or announcements. Tonight I have 2 proclamations. First one, Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month calls attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and impacts every person in this community. And whereas rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment harm our community, and statistics from 2011 national survey show 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men will be raped at some point in their lives. And whereas child sexual abuse prevention must be a priority to confront the reality that the American Journal of Preventive Medicine estimated in 2005 that 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls will experience a sexual assault before the age of 18. And whereas the Juvenile Offenders and Victims 2006 national report states that young people experience heightened rate of sexual violence, and youth ages 12 to 17 were 2.5 times as likely to be victims of rape and sexual assault. And whereas the 2007 campus sexual assault study indicates that on our nation's campuses, 1 in 5 women and 1 in 16 men are sexually assaulted during their time in college. And whereas we must work together to educate our community about sexual violence and prevention, supporting survivors and speaking out against harmful attitudes and actions. And whereas when we actively get involved, we can prevent sexual violence, the first step is increasing education, awareness, and community involvement. It is time for all of us to take action to create a safer environment for all. Now, therefore, I, Matthew J. Walagora, by the virtue of authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Alpena, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2016 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the city of Alpena, and I join advocates and communities across the country in taking action to prevent sexual violence. And tonight we have Val Williams from Shelter Inc.
We worked this out ahead of time.
Okay, you're all set. You have a couple words today?
I do, actually.
Please.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you.
So thank you for that, City Council. And while I'm on the floor, I have a couple of things I'd like to say. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and this is the second year that the City Council has focused on this as an issue that's important to the community. And I've been doing this work now for almost 11 years in this very community. And what I can say about the statistics that Matt read for us is that they are very real, but the thing about those statistics and those numbers that I think a lot of us don't understand is that of those sexual assaults that we're citing as happening, out of every 100 sexual assaults, only 32 are actually reported and included in those statistics. So that's 32% of sexual assaults actually going on to be reported. 7 of those 32 actually leading to an arrest of some sort, and then 3 of those 7 actually becoming felony convictions. So the work that Shelter Incorporated does in the community really is to give a voice to the people who may or even may not be reporting, that other 70% of victims in our community that need a voice, that need a place to go to feel believed and feel heard. That's the service that we do provide. So understanding the statistics is important, but also understanding the statistics of who isn't involved in those numbers and who isn't being reflected in that report. So that being said, Shelter Incorporated is very excited to announce that we are changing our name. On April 22nd, we will be revealing that name at the Aplex at 10:30 in the morning, Friday, April 22nd. So if you're around, please stop in. We'll have refreshments, and we'd like to talk to you about why we're changing our name. We're hoping to create more access for the community and all victims of violence so that everybody feels they can have a voice. Thank you. Thank you.
next one is National Volunteer Week, and Kathy Himes from our Human Resources Administration Office is going to intro that.
Go first.
You want me to go first?
Whatever you want to do.
I was expecting that you would intro it.
Okay, I would love to. I really more speak from the heart than anything. You have a memo in front of you, but I've been involved in the community for about 30 years, volunteering in various organizations. And every time I go someplace, I see one of our employees out there. And so this is all about just recognizing our employees and understanding that when they punch out, they truly don't go home. They're volunteering someplace within the community. And if it wasn't for our volunteers, not only our employees, but also all of our citizens, you know, our community would not have grown and prospered the way that it really has. And so I just want to take this opportunity to recognize all of Alpena and our employees for everything that they give back. There are hundreds of organizations that we volunteer for collectively throughout Northeast Michigan, and some of these organizations would not be able to continue without the volunteers that they have working for them. And just one example of something that you actually can physically see. If you go over to the covered bridge, our firefighters actually did the paving stones there, put a lot of time and effort into it, and I think that's something that they're proud of and that we're proud to be able to see. But I truly believe that as you go to different events throughout the community, you will find our employees and just take the opportunity to thank them and that they take ownership in this community and everything that they do.
For sure.
And I did write down a few, as you well know.
We know.
This is a very, very small partial list. We only have about 40 of them that and there's many, many more, and there's some people that didn't have the opportunity to get their name, their organization on the list. But Project Blue Light, Picking for People, the Huron Shores, Babe Ruth, softball and baseball groups, the Alpena Jets, the Sportsman's Club. I didn't wear my glasses, which is why I didn't read that. Friends Together, Thompson Harbor State Park, the youth soccer group, the Alpena Chamber of Commerce, Boys and Girls Club, Senior Citizen Center, and the list is there for everybody to read. But again, I just make sure that you thank them and know that they're committed to this community 100%.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy. And hold on. Yes, I will, I'll read the proclamation now that you put together and the list. It was awesome.
Voluntarily, I'm sure.
So this is the designation of National Volunteer Week, whereas the City of Alpena and volunteers throughout the Alpena area are recognized for their commitment to making Northeast Michigan a better place to live and the positive impacts that they make on the lives of those in the community, further recognizing that without their effort, the hundreds of clubs and programs throughout the area which they represent may not exist. And whereas the City of Alpena wishes to extend its appreciation to the area volunteers for their contribution and dedication to making Alpena and Northeast Michigan a better place to live, and recognizes the tireless effort and time they put into the community in which they live. And whereas the City of Alpena wishes to recognize and honor the long-standing history of volunteerism by employees and community members throughout Northeast Michigan and beyond, and the generations of selfless people whom have played a crucial role in the development of the community through their volunteerism. And whereas the National Volunteer Week is an opportunity to inform the public about the important role volunteers play in the community and the success of business and organizations throughout Alpena and Northeast Michigan. And now, therefore, I, Matthew J. Wallagora, by the virtue of authority vested in me as the Mayor of Alpena, do hereby proclaim April 10th through April 16th as National Volunteer Week, and further, the City of Alpena supports all volunteers and celebrate their hard work, time, and effort it takes to make a community great, and further, that the City of Alpena recognizes the value of working collaboratively with all community members and members of Northeast Michigan, and looks forward to working together on projects that continue to help Alpena, its citizens, and its youth to grow and prosper.
And I'd like to invite Doug Pio up. He is one of our newer firefighters, and he is volunteering. He's only been here for a year, and he's already found his place. So if Doug would come up and help us accept the proclamation. No! I have my heels on. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
our public hearing and report of officers. Next up, communications and petitions. Duffy Gorski is here for Jim DesRocher for the Enbridge Line 5 oil pipeline running under the Straits of Mackinaw.
First of all, I'd like us to have these. Jim says that the sends his best and tells you that he's sick. He was in Chicago with his children and probably brought something back with him. However, while he was there, said the Chicago News was talking about the Enbridge pipes under the Mackinaw Bridge. They're concerned. I'm concerned. I think of the worst case scenario. Enbridge tells us that they can shut that pipe off in 3 minutes. They tell us that they have a sensor on it that senses pressure drop. Now, of course, it doesn't shut off if it drops 1 degree in pressure. It doesn't shut off if it drops 2 degrees in pressure. We don't know how many degrees of pressure it has to drop before it will shut off. Let's paint a little scenario. You got a pipe carrying 250 pounds of pressure. Their pressure sensor is set to pick up 30 pounds pressure drop, warning them it's time to shut down. What happens if during the middle of the winter, like a couple years back, when the Straits and the Great Lakes are frozen, they get a 22-pound pressure drop, and they have a leak, and it's sitting there, leaking all winter long. Now I'm open for questions.
Duffy, why after 60 years why do you think it's an issue now and not 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
Let me ask you this question. You have a 60-year-old car? Would you be driving at 70 miles an hour down the freeway? This pipe is 63 years old. It is pipe pumping more liquids through it than it was ever designed to pump, at higher pressures than it was ever designed to hold. It's an older pipe that's being pushed harder and harder and harder.
I have a question too. I feel almost that if the pipeline isn't there, everything gets loaded into a ship. Do you have concerns about that? More than one ship?
First of all, Enbridge has lines to take the load of oil, and that's all this resolution asks for, is to take the oil out of the line. They have alternative lines that are carrying gas that can take up that volume of oil and pump it to the same destination.
And those are land-based lines.
These still cross some of your streams and rivers and stuff, but they don't cross the Great Lakes. They'll still cross somewhere around Sarnia to get across. What I don't understand is why Canadian oil, which we get about, I forget what the percentage is, it's a very small percent that's used in the United States, isn't shipped across Canadian land and stay on Canada's side the whole time. They can do that.
I've got a lot of questions, but I guess unfortunately they're not, and I don't mean this offensively, but they're not for you. I don't have questions for you, sir. I have questions for the state of Michigan. I have questions for Enbridge. And as of Thursday, when I learned that this was going to be on the agenda, I've been reading everything that that Jim sent to us, plus a ton of articles in everything from the Detroit Free Press to USA Today to everything. So I've done a lot of reading, as much as I kind of could over the weekend. Of course, it was the weekend, so there really wasn't anybody to contact. I read somewhat of a press release this morning from Schuette's office regarding where he's at with it. And so a deadline, apparently, that's next week or the 11th for bids for some of the actions that it seems the resolution is asking for. It's asking for 2 actions, and apparently our state government is doing something about that. And here's what I'm asking. I mean, I guess I might be called an idiot if I said, well, I have absolutely no concern whatsoever whether this pipeline bursts and throws oil all over the Straits. It would be ridiculous for me to say that. But just exactly how concerned I am and whether I feel that signing this resolution is the answer to it or not, I'm not there today. I mentioned to a couple councilmen that came in earlier that what I would like to do this evening is table this to the next meeting rather than vote on it. But that's how I feel. I will entertain whatever the council would like to do as a majority. But that's where I am, only because I'm a lot more fact-based and I haven't had the opportunity. As a matter of fact, half of the stuff I read either contradicted itself or said that no one knows, that the facts aren't there. So you're presenting me with facts, and I understand that, but I've read stuff that says that no one knows what the cargo is right now. So I just kind of want to get a better handle on it. That's where I'm at right now, and I don't know if 2 weeks is going to make that significant amount of a difference in 63 years, but that's where I'm at. So I'll leave it up to council.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, sir.
When you read this resolution, all it's doing is asking you to be able to read those facts. We can't get them. That's what we're telling you. The people of Michigan have been trying to get the facts on this pipe, and they will not turn them over. As Leonard said, they hide behind the cloak and say they don't have to give you those facts. And that's why we're asking for the resolution, to show that we want the facts. That's all we're asking. Remember that. We're not saying stop pumping natural gas through it. We're saying reroute the oil a different way. Give us a sense that we're safer in that condition until you prove that it is safe. And I want to say one other thing about pipelines. And as far as that goes, any machinery that man has ever made, they're always safe the day before they break. And if you can't get the facts, Matt, and if they table this, what I'm going to ask of every one of you is, when we come back next week, you show me the facts that you got from Enbridge on this pipe.
If I may.
Very well, please.
I disagree with tabling it. All of this group of people is asking the people that represent them, is to ask the people who are above our grade pay to look at this and stop the flow of oil through that pipeline until they can tell us it's safe. And Duffy is right. You can go to as many meetings as you want with Enbridge. They're not going to give you what you're looking for. That's what this is all about. It just reroutes the oil. They say that the price of oil and gas will go up in Michigan. That's not true. I mean, and if it does, I would rather pay that upfront cost rather than the cleanup cost. This pipeline is 63 years old. And Kalamazoo River and the tributary that was damaged by Enbridge, that line was only 40 years old. And it took them 5 years. They're still cleaning up that oil. And they'll never get it all off. This is a matter of our clean water. This is a matter of economy. This is a matter of our our natural resource that we depend on in Michigan. It's our job, in my opinion, as an elected official, to make sure that citizens have clean water. And until we can get the information from this company on this pipeline that's that old, I support this resolution.
Thank you.
You know, and this is not meant as a criticism, but, you know, environmentalists are often looked at being extreme in what they ask for. You know, I think this is a very reasonable request. It is, you know, not a request to shut down the pipeline. It's a request for information. It's a request, you know, for a temporary restraint. And I don't see that the risk in following a reasonable request is, you know, greater than the risk of not doing it, certainly. You know, we are an economy that's dependent on natural resources. And if there's a 99% chance that Enbridge is on the up and up and they're not hiding anything, it's still not good enough. And I think, you know, our lesson through some past, I guess, tragedies is that those companies aren't always 99% on the up and up in the first place. So, you know, I don't know if 2 more weeks is magically going to bring more information in. I think if we do decide to table it, you know, like Duffy's request to, all right, we'll show you what they did give us in that meantime. I think that's pretty unlikely. Been an awful lot of public support for this. And when we look at maybe an analogy in our own system, we've, you know, fought really hard to bring in more revenue to protect our own citizens from aging pipes. Okay, and granted, this is not carrying oil, it's not carrying natural glass or glass. Yeah, but the concept's the same, that, you know, pipes do age, and like anything else, they are going to leak at some point. We went to great lengths in our own community with our water and sewer. You know, why wouldn't we go to the same lengths, you know, to protect a much bigger natural resource? And it's not like big companies have never lied to us before, okay, to protect their own interests. So it can sound paranoid, but when companies aren't willing to share information, it's usually a bad sign. So I certainly support it. I would probably even support a little bit stronger resolution myself. I think this is a reasonable thing to ask for. And if this is a reasonable company, they'll be willing to make their line safe and willing to share information. So I tend to agree with Cindy's sentiment.
For myself, I agree with both Sean and Cindy. I've never been a fan. I've done some independent research, but, you know, for me, I always have said the same thing on this council, that if any council member finds himself at any time not ready to vote, needs more information, has not had adequate time to do the research, then I would always support that. So I find myself closer to both of you, but I would say that I would be comfortable if we did delay 2 weeks, but I probably would not need any more than that. So that's where I'm at. I think that if any council person has an idea that they want more, they feel they need more, I would always support tabling it for a couple of weeks.
And I am the same. A little time, a little more information never hurts anybody. And I think 2 weeks is not going to make it any better or any worse, but it sure will make us feel better about the way we vote. And I would certainly support delaying for 2 weeks.
I guess I have to ask, what will change in 2 weeks? If we can't get information from this company now, you're not gonna get it in 2 weeks. And you can attend meetings where they're coming, just because they're there, they're not going to say, oh, they're here, let's tell them what everyone else has been asking. You're not gonna get the information. That's what this resolution is about, is to get the information. To guarantee us with some certainty that that pipeline is safe, because they don't have to give it to us, and they haven't. They're not going to.
No, I wouldn't expect that I would walk into anyone's office or call someone on the phone and all of a sudden they're going to give me a ton of information that they haven't released to anybody else.
And if they did, we did not.
That would be amazing. I'd probably give up this job for something else, but I guess I'm just, it's not all about whether it's gonna change my mind. It's about knowing as much as I possibly can about an issue before I vote. And I don't know, I've had conflicting reports in 2 reputable media sources that either say that the government can do what they're asking, and one says that the government cannot do what you're asking. Have I had time to find out from somebody that I feel comfortable with government law that can tell me, can the government really do what you're asking? And of course, I would expect that you're gonna tell me that, yeah, they can. Your group is gonna tell me that they can.
Let's find out.
Well, I would like to
Let's find out if the
know.
government can do that.
I'd like to know.
Then send them a resolution saying, give us the information.
Okay, that's fine. And somebody else, and I'm sure, I mean, there's several that have agreed with that. I guess I wouldn't. I guess I don't. I guess that's something that's a little bit hingeful. I'm very curious as to why this is a partisan issue. And I haven't had an opportunity to discuss with anyone. It shouldn't be, but it is. So I'd like to discuss that with someone. So it's just simple stuff. It's just simple things. And like I said, I mean, you get a lot of information here, and I'm just curious as to a couple of simple answers. May not make my vote any different than it is today, and it might, but not knowing, and if it's 2 weeks that big of a deal, I don't know.
We won't know.
So, I don't know that 2 weeks makes that much of a difference in something of this magnitude, I guess. So that's where I stand, but not a big deal, I mean. So that's where I'm at. So I'll entertain a motion of either sort at this point.
And I would move that we table, so that the mayor and Councilwoman Nielsen can do some more research so they feel comfortable in their vote on this resolution.
When you're ready.
Noah,
Yes.
Sexton,
No.
Walagora,
Aye?
Johnson,
No.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Okay. We'll be back in 2 weeks on that, but thank you, Duffy.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming. And please come again if you can.
I will.
No unfinished business, new business this evening, water and sewer tap-in fees. Rich?
For the past many years, we typically adjusted our water and sewer tap-in fees to cover any inflationary costs, basically the cost of doing business. What we do for a tap-in fee, to try to make it as uniform for everybody, is we look at what our costs are to go from the center of the street back to the curb stop or the clean out, depending on water or sewer. Cost of the copper, cost of the excavation, cost of the curb removal and replacement, asphalt, labor, equipment, all that. What we're requesting is a 5% increase for 2016. Good example, last year we had our water tap at the Woodward Avenue trailhead. City charges itself water and sewer tap-in fees, so that project paid a tap-in fee for water of $4,760. Now that was unusual because it's a concrete street, but the cost for that tap was actually over $8,000. So there's some that are more, some that are obviously less. And we try to do it from the center of the street so that the person who has the water main in front of his tree lawn is paying the same as the guy who lives across the street, who has to take all the way across the street. One of the things we will be doing this year is we'll go back and evaluate, track our costs for the last several years and see, and verify that we are where we need to be And if we're at that or above, we can hold those prices in check. Or if we're below it, we can look at additional increases to cover those costs.
So, if I understood correctly, Richard, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's really not based on any actual cost or?
Not
an
right
actual-
now. We estimated it a number of years ago, and we've just been doing the inflationary increases.
Rich, how many tap-ins are there in a year about? It's not many, right?
No, these are new water and sewer taps. You'll, maybe 4 or 5, I would guess is probably a reasonable number. We've had years where we've had none. We've also had more, but, and this year we've got, like the Holiday Inn Express has got a tap-in fee, the Woodward Inn, we had a tap-in fee this fiscal year. Not a lot of residential, mostly more commercial. If a service has been off for more than a year, we do have the right to assess them a tap-in fee unless we can prove that, if the service is good, we're not gonna charge them a tap-in fee. But if we have to go back out there and repair it, we do charge them a tap-in fee.
Very good. We have to approve that. Or we can, and we don't have to.
Yeah, one or the other. I move we approve the 2016 tap-in fees as presented.
Second.
Sexton.
Yes.
Walagora.
Aye.
Johnson.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Noah.
No.
I move we adjourn to closed session to discuss litigation.
Second.
Walagora.
Aye.
Johnson.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Noah.
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
Thank you very much.